everyone, and welcome back to crafting. If this is your first craft, just welcome. So what we're going to do today is do our braided mug rugs. So the first thing you want to do is get 3 of our strips of the fabric, and you're going to put them together one on top of each other. The other thing you'll need for this project is a needle and some thread. Because the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put a stitch in your fabric to keep them together. So I'm just going to run this through a couple times just to make sure it's going to stay together nice and tight. Okay, I have doubled up the thread, so that should be good to go. And you're actually just going to then place your needle off to the side. If you are working with something, you can stick it in a pin for a little bit, because what we're going to do next is we're going to take these 3 strands and we're just going to braid them. The easiest way I found is to stick them under something a little bit heavier while you braid. You don't want to braid it too tight, because if it's braided too tight, then it will tend to curl up on itself. And if it's too loose, you can also get, depending on what you're setting your mug rug on, condensation, and you don't necessarily want that either. So you want a fairly medium type of braid. So if you were braiding hair, one that's going to stay in, but one that's not going to pull, to where you're going to have a headache type of braid. Braiding is not just for girls' hair. Braiding is a good skill to have anyway. Braiding baling twine is probably how a lot of us get started with braiding. And so you're just going to go through and get it all braided up. Now, the longer your pieces are, the longer it'll take you to braid, but you're going to want a nice kind of bigger mug rug, especially for this time of year with all of your yummy holiday warm goodies like hot chocolate to put on your mug rug. But you will also probably spend some time detangling your strings, as they will get a little tangled as you go, and that's okay. Just go and braid a little bit at a time, go through, and then keep braiding. Now I used 2 different colors. I've got 2 red and a white. You can do all the same color. You can do 3 different colors depending on what you chose. And if you like doing this project and you would like to try this with other fabric, you can do that too. And it can be, a multi-pattern fabric. It actually is quite fun to have different patterns going throughout your mug rug. The one thing with this fabric, while you are braiding and untangling, you're going to want to make sure you're not pulling too hard. This fabric is great for doing this, but if you pull too hard, you will kind of pull the fabric apart a little bit, and you don't want to do that. You want to keep it together, because it will fray a little bit if you pull it too hard. So I'm going to just back up and keep braiding. So by the time you're done, you're going to want a braid that's about 2 yards long, or 6 feet approximately, to be able to work with when we are rolling up our mug rug. And the great thing about this is, even if you skip a braid, which I've noticed, I've had a couple of those as I'm going through, it's okay. It's not going to really affect your mug rug. So going through and just braiding it up and untangling with a nice, slightly loose braid to work with. Once you've gotten to the length that you would like, so that about 6 foot mark, I'm not quite there yet, but for the sake of time, I'm going to just quickly do some braiding. And then what you can do is I'm just going to tie my remainder in a little bit of a knot, pull everything through, and tie it off a bit. Okay, so you still have your beginning section that has the little bit of a knot in there or a nice stitch to keep things together. So what you're going to do is you're going to start and roll with the braid going down. So it will look like this, like you're rolling up a cinnamon roll almost. Okay. And then as you go through, you're going to take your needle and your thread, and you're going to go through part of, so if you notice, I'm just going through part of the braid underneath. So everything will go underneath. I've already messed that up. It's fine. Just going to bring the braid out and around. So you're going to want all of your stitches down on the bottom of your mug rug, so that way you can't see it from the top, and keeps it nice and firm, and so that it won't unravel as you go. So as you go through, you're going to keep rolling it, and then every about third thing, you're just going to run a quick stitch through it to keep it together. Okay, and then roll and stitch. I'm using white thread, depending on what type of fabric or what type of color you've chosen. You can use whatever thread you might have on hand. So just going to go through. Oop, poked myself a little. It's okay. If you don't have needle and thread at home, you can borrow some from the office. We will loan that out. So you're just going to go through and keep winding and keep running stitches through to keep it together. You also don't want to stitch it too tight together, because that will also cause your mug rug to curl, and you don't necessarily want that either. You want it to lay nice and flat. So if you can see, mine's coming together pretty nicely. So I would just keep going around and around and around, putting the stitches in until I've reached how big I would like it to be. This is a little small. I would normally keep going, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to. And this is where, once you reach the end, you can cut off the excess that we have here. Except these scissors are not the greatest. So apparently on our Christmas list to Santa for the 4-H office, we should put new scissors. So you'll just cut that off, and then you will take for your last little bit, and you can kind of keep it so it is the same way. You're just going to run your needle through your little knot and then through a different thing to make a nice little mug rug. And then you will continue and do that with 3 more times. So you'll have a matching set of 4 for your mug rugs. And then you can put these in the wash if you would like to, if you get something on there, wash them on gentle cycle. because you don't want the stitches to fall apart. So remember, nice looser braid, not too tight. Don't pull the material because it will fray. And about every third section of braid, you're gonna wanna put a stitch in there to keep it flat and to keep it from coming apart. So thanks for crafting with us today, and happy crafting.